Welcome to the Project Core Professional Development modules. This module, Teaching Communication During Academics, Shared Reading, discusses how to support interaction and teach communication during a common academic routine called shared reading. Project Core is being conducted by the Center for Literacy and Disability Studies, a unit in the Allied Health Sciences Department at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Shared reading is a type of reading that focuses on the interaction that happens between an adult and a student or a group of students while reading together. The goal of shared reading is to maximize student interaction with the adult and other students. During shared reading, the adult helps students make connections between the book and things the student already knows or has experienced. The adult helps students make these connections through comments, not questions. In fact, questions are avoided as much as possible. Adults do the reading, and usually adults lead the interaction when shared reading is new. However, adults encourage students to take the lead and communicate about the things they find interesting. Adults help students learn to take the lead by showing them how to make comments about the book, by taking long pauses and waiting for the student to communicate, and by carefully watching for any type of communication. When they see the student communicate in any way, they respond by repeating and adding a little more. Throughout shared reading, students must have access to their own communication system. Students may interact in other ways, but they should always have access to their universal core vocabulary. Adults can use the student's personal communication system to demonstrate commenting and to provide aided language input. In the end, remember that the goal of shared reading is to maximize communication and interaction. We aren't asking questions or checking comprehension. Let's consider an example shared reading lesson. An adult was reading a book called Noses with a small group. The adult read the title, Noses, and then used a student's personal communication system to say, "Look." The teacher then paused and waited for 10 full seconds. He watched the students closely, looking for any form of communication. He saw nothing, so he showed the students the picture and demonstrated and said, "Look," again. Then he added, "Look, a nose," before he again paused and waited for 10 full seconds. After 5 seconds, one of the students put her hand on her universal core system. The adult saw her movement and said, "I see your hand. Tell me." Again, he paused and waited. A few seconds later, the student looked at him and then the book. The adult said, "You are looking at the book. I think you want me to read it." Then he points to more on the girl's universal core system and says, "I will read more." On the next page, the adult read the text, "Dog nose," and then said, "Different nose," pointing to the symbol for different on the student's universal core system. Then the adult paused and waited for students to communicate. 10 seconds later, the adult flipped to the previous page and pointed to the picture of the tiger's nose, and then back to the current page and pointed to the dog nose. He then repeated his comment, "Different nose," while pointing to the symbol for different. One student who uses speech yelled out, "I have a dog." The adult responded by saying, "You do," pointing to the symbols you and do. Another student who is learning to use a universal core system to communicate got very excited when his classmate announced that he had a dog. The adult saw his excitement and said, "I see you. You look like you have something to say. Tell me." Then the adult pointed toward the student's universal core system, paused, and waited. The boy looked down and touched it. Unsure what the student meant, the adult repeated the boy's message by saying and pointing to it on the boy's universal core system. Then the adult added, "It is a dog nose," as he first pointed to it on the universal core system and then pointed to the nose in the book. Then the adult paused and waited to give other students a chance to communicate. After 5 seconds, the adult turned the page and continued. On this page, the adult enthusiastically read, "Hose nose," and then said, "Like a hose," and pointed to the symbol for like and repeated the word like. And then he paused and waited. When one student laughed, he said, "Yes, I hear you laughing. It is funny." And then he added, "It can blow water," while pointing to the symbols for it and can. Then he paused, waited, and watched the students. A student made a sound after a few seconds. The adult said, "I hear you." Then he asked the student to tell me as he pointed toward the student's universal core system. The student looked at the core system, then the adult, and then the book. The adult described what he saw. "I see you looking. Are you thinking?" "I am thinking, how?" As he points to how on the boy's core system and then says, "How can it?" As he points to how, can, and it on the core board. All of these example comments and invitations were open-ended to encourage students to communicate and interact. The adult carefully observed the students, attributed meaning to their behaviors, and encouraged them to use their universal core systems to communicate. All of this without asking direct questions or requiring the use of symbols. Like the example we reviewed, adults should focus on the use of universal core words and show students how they could use their communication system to interact during shared reading. Adults should keep comments simple and highlight 1 or 2 words on the students' core systems. The book supports this by providing a shared context that adds meaning to the comments. After reading each page and commenting, remember to pause and wait for at least 10 seconds. Many students need adults to be silent for 15, 20, or even 30 seconds before they can process and plan a way to communicate. As you get started, count in your head to remind yourself to slow down and be patient. Offer your students the silent time they need to organize their thoughts and bodies to respond. An easy way to remember how to maximize interactions during shared reading is to follow the CAR. C stands for comment, A stands for ask for participation, and R stands for respond. Let's review each one. After reading the text on the page, the adult should comment. Make a simple, open-ended comment and then wait for 10 or more seconds to give your students time to communicate in some way. Ask for participation. Make it clear with your comments and gestures that you want students to communicate with you. Ask students to participate by making requests like, "Tell me," gesturing toward their communication systems, or by repeating your original comment. And then wait with interest. Respond. When a student communicates in some way, respond to them. Repeat what they did or said, add a little more, and then offer them enough wait time to communicate again and continue the interaction. Pause for activity 1. We have found that share reading is more successful when adults plan their comments before reading the book. Planning the comments before each reading helps adults maximize their use of core vocabulary. That maximizes opportunities for students who are learning to use core to communicate. There's an instructional planning guide on the Project Core website. You'll find that the guide is set up to support repeated reading of each book. Instead of planning a single set of comments for a single reading, plan a set of comments for 3 or more readings and use the book 3 or more times during shared reading. Over time, this repeated reading is likely to increase interest and participation. As we've discussed, keep your comments short. Use the core words your students could use to make similar comments. The boxes on the shared reading planning sheet are intentionally small to remind you to focus on single words or 2-word combinations your students could use. After you've planned your core comments, consider adding sticky notes to each page of the book. As you turn to the page, remove the sticky note reminder. It only takes a few minutes to add these reminders and set yourself up for success. Pause for activity 2. There are a few important things to keep in mind when selecting books for shared reading. To begin, look for short books that can be read and possibly reread in a single activity. Choose books that offer appropriate language complexity to support students making meaningful connections with the text and illustrations. For example, this adapted book about Tom Sawyer from the Tar Heel Reader Library provides access to the interesting story about Tom at an appropriate language level for beginning communicators who are in middle and high school grades. Choose books that your students find interesting. There will be much more to communicate and interact if you select a book on topics that interest them. Consider sources like Tar Heel Reader for accessible books on a wide range of topics. There are tens of thousands of easy-to-read books on a wide range of topics. Finally, one of the most important things to remember for successful shared reading experiences is to read and interact with enthusiasm. Students are going to be much more likely to engage and interact when adults are enthusiastic readers and excited about interacting with students about the book. This concludes the module. Your feedback is important to us. Please take a couple of minutes to complete a brief survey about this module by going to project-core.com/PD survey. Thank you for your participation. To learn more about Project Core and to access free resources and materials, visit the website at project-core.com.